Welcome to this fun drawing exercises tutorial. It's suitable for beginners, but it's suitable for all. It's a great way of practicing your drawing for watercolor painting. I use lots of fun exercises, line and wash, using the Twig, Indian Ink and tonal pencil drawings. And I try and give you lots of tips to improve your drawing skills and to build your confidence. And at the end of this tutorial, I share the tip that I think is the most beneficial for beginners to really improve their drawing skills. I'm Karen Rice. Welcome to my watercolor channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not subscribe to my channel where you'll get updates of my latest tutorials. So, shall we get started? I was first inspired by a walk I took recently where I saw some dog walkers, and it's a perfect subject for me, and I wanted to share it with you but also use it as a way of talking about how to improve drawing and to build up preliminary sketches for a watercolor painting as well. So here is the photo link, and you can find a link for this in the description below. And for a full list of all the materials I'm going to be using in this tutorial, please see the description below. I think one of the most important things for drawing, to improve your drawing, is to get yourself a sketchbook and to use it daily if you can, and just doodle and sketch. I'm actually showing you here how I draw people, and there's lots of ways of doing it, and these are not sort of close-up people, these are people in the distance, little people I call them. So I'm actually sketching the girl on the left, and I've sort of used an arch window, I call it, for the sort of body, the torso, and then put some arms on. I've just put the dog lead there, and now I'm just sketching in the legs. This is a little bit more detail than what I would do, but I just thought just to look at a close-up version of this, just to see how much I simplify it. The other thing is I really do sketch and use broken line. This is the dog, and it's literally, again, another arch window, and sort of just bringing the legs out to the side, and you've almost got another arch window inside between the legs there. Actually, I meant to put his tail down, but his tail is up in the picture. He's having such a lovely time. And I've just put a little bit around the left-hand side and an impression of legs, but because it's when it's in the painting, it's going to be such a small scale, you won't see any of that detail. You're just giving an impression. I always say to my students, small heads for people, even smaller than you think, because you end up with all your people looking like children because their heads are sort of larger on their bodies. With adults, I think our head goes about 6.5 times into an adult's body. So yeah, small heads, you can always make them bigger. It's very, very difficult to make them smaller. I did a little bit of cross hatching there, and now what I'm doing is I'm actually drawing a smaller version. So it just, you can give less detail and it just gives that impression. The pen that I'm using is Uni-Pin Fineliner pen. It's waterproof and fade proof. It's a really nice pen. It's got a really small little nib there for all the detail. Now this is where I actually paint little people. It's literally a dot and a line for in the distance, like a beach scene, and you've got people in the distance, or a street scene, a dot and a line, and then you can draw carrots, which is what I'm doing here. So you literally draw sort of a carrot shape and then cross it at the bottom, so that can be their legs. And then what you do is you use that shape, go back into it and sort of bring them to life a little bit more. Don't overwork it, because remember, they're little people, and remember, less is more. And I always say to my students as well, no hands, no feet, no neck, no features. It's just, you're just creating an illusion of people in the distance, so don't give too much information because it will bring them forward. A really good exercise to improve your drawing is tonal drawing, and I usually use a softer pencil for this. I'm using a 3B pencil here, but you could even use softer pencils, a 4B, 5B, 6B and so on. But it's almost a very dark colour, and you can really sort of half close your eyes just to see the darks and lights. Another good thing is actually to print off your photograph as a black and white image, so you can see the tonal contrast there as well. It's really important for a planning aspect of your painting. And I've always been told, and I've sort of passed the message on, a good tip this is for your focal point, which is the dog walkers here and the little dog, is you want your lightest light where your darkest dark is. So I'm going to have it maybe one of the ladies wearing a dark jacket, the other one wearing a light one, and sort of contrast it with the background as well. So you've got dark and light, good counter change there. But I'm just sort of using my finger here to blend as well, and also to decide where the light's coming from. In this instance, it is coming from the left, so I'm putting a lot of the shading and cast shadows on the right hand side. But this is actually quite loose. It's not too detailed. It's certainly not that accurate really, but it's just an opportunity to get to know your subject, to start to feel confident. So I would really encourage tonal drawings. You could even do it more simply than this, just sort of plotting out your darks and lights. And a good way of doing that is to half close your eyes as well, especially if you're painting and drawing from life. And you can also use a putty rubber with tonal drawing to lift out the lights, and also charcoal as well. I'm using some Indian ink and a twig from the garden sharpened with a pencil sharpener, and I'm applying it straight onto the watercolour paper. I'm using Winsor & Newton's Rough Watercolour Paper, but this is nice on any surface. What's really nice about this is I'm looking for marks, and obviously I'm composing my picture, but I'm looking for darks and lights also. And obviously you can get a lot of dark using Indian ink. And remember, you can't rub this off, so you're just going to go straight for it. I have actually, on all of these little sketches here, done a light pencil drawing. And if you're a little bit worried about using Indian ink and a drawing pen that's waterproof, you might want to do a very, very light pencil sketch. But I'm just sketching it again using the techniques I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial about drawing little people. And it's really nice using the twig because it kind of just feels really natural. And one thing I would say is when you dip the twig in, just give it a little tap before you go to your drawing or painting, because you sometimes can get a blob or something. So I'm just sort of sketching in the tree here. And for the branches, you don't need to sort of fill in like you would painting. You can just sort of literally use the twig to draw twigs. It's great. So I'm just using lots of different marks here, and to get a mid-tone, because obviously I've got my lights and my darks, I'm using the side of the twig and just rubbing the texture of the paper as I'm doing here, just to create some mid-tones here. I really like this way of drawing. It makes me feel very relaxed. This is a mapping pen, and it's on its little holder there, and you can get lots of different nibs. I also like drawing this way, so I've dipped it into the Indian ink. Really do give it a good tap, because you can get blobs. And you can actually use different coloured inks as well. Sepia is quite nice to use. This is not unlike the twig, and obviously the ink is permanent, but you get a little bit more detail with the point of the mapping pen. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. This is my final little exercise. It's the waterproof Fineliner pen. It's black ink and it's a 0.8mm nib. You can get them very, very fine as well. I quite like these because you haven't got the mess of the twig and the mapping pen. There's no danger of blobs. but it doesn't feel, I don't know, there's a natural feeling when you're using the Twig especially, but this is lovely to use, especially if you're out and about with your little sketchbook and you can just sort of sketch away there, which is what I'm doing here. And you can do cross hatching and mark making, and it's so good to use a pen for your drawing and just sort of using all these different sort of marks. I'm just building up here. I love the artist, Sir Hugh Casson. He used to be the president of the Royal Academy. He's no longer with us now, but I love his pen and wash paintings. I will put a link in the description below, but just look up his work on Google. It's beautiful, and it's really, to me, that's what pen and wash is all about, and I'm trying to kind of emulate him here with just the mark making. It's very refined, it's very delicate. Now the art of pen and wash, line and wash, is to tickle your watercolor paint onto the surface of the dry paper, which is what I'm doing here. Even use the side of the brush. I prefer using a hot press sometimes, but you can use any surface. It's lovely. So I've actually used some light greens on the top painting, blue for the sky, and a little bit of quinacridone rust for the earthy sort of areas, but you could use burnt sienna. And I'm doing the same here on the sort of left middle painting here, using my size 10 brush, working wet on dry, even putting a bit of shading and colour on the trees as well, putting a bit of dark here, a bit of shadow in between the trees, and just a few little marks here and there. The pen does the talking in a way, so try not to do too much painting of the watercolour. There is a fine balance. I used some brush show there, couldn't help myself, and a bit of salt as well to see if we get some nice textures. Here goes the salt. I'm just using ordinary table salt this time, and it should soak up the paint and create some textures. As you can see, my brush has done some quite interesting things on that little painting there, but I'm painting wet on dry at the top here. I've allowed everything to dry. I've swapped to my size 6 brush. I'm using quinacridone rust. I will put some colour alternatives as well in the description below, but I'm just going to build up details. But again, I'm just sort of going back to Sir Hugh Casson's work. He really was a minimalist. He had all the information there, but he just didn't overdo it, and it's a great way of working, and that's what I'm trying to do here. And so I'm just putting some sort of paler bluey grey trees in the distance here, and again working wet on dry. Really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and there will be a longer version available on my Patreon membership. Details about that can be found in the link on the top right hand side of this video or in the description below. So as you know, I love to finish off with a spatter, which is ideal for pen and wash. And my top drawing tip that I promised I would share with you is to throw away your erasers, okay? Not literally you might want to use them again for your watercolor paintings when you want to get rid of pencil marks, but try not to draw when you're practicing drawing. Try not to use a rubber. A rubber stops you from looking, and good accurate drawing is all about the looking. Okay, so I discovered this years ago when I started using a mapping pen to do a little sketch, and my drawing improved within minutes. I could draw, and it's because I didn't have a rubber, so I couldn't rub it out, so I had to look. So I would suggest get yourselves a mapping pen, use a Twig. You can even use a Twig with watercolor black ink or sepia, whatever you've got handy. But just practice it that way, and it will build your confidence. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you found all the information helpful and hopefully inspirational inspirational and that you'll get your pens and pencils out and start sketching more. If you have any questions about this tutorial, please put them in the comments section below. And as I said earlier, if you'd like to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you again for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.